This is Ram Man. I'm back. This one is the R&B topic. Now, growing up in the '80s, the R&B was off the chain. One of my favorite groups was Ready for the World. Like, you know, what's that song? Let Me Love You Down. Oh, it's one of my favorite songs of the '80s. One of my favorite songs. Man, he had just so many different artists, and like a lot of artists didn't sound exactly the same, but that R&B, rhythm and soul music back then, man, I mean, it will forever be classics. Like, you got groups like, you got groups like 80s. Okay, I know Keith Sweat. I know he was more in the very early '90s era. I think he might have came out in the late '80s. Might have been '88, '89, something like that. But Keith Sweat go down as one of the greats in the R&B game. Of course, R. Kelly in the '90s. They try to call him the R&B king and stuff like that. R. Kelly, one of the greats also. No denying that at all. Like, he'd have dropped so many classic songs and classic albums. And Keith Sweat too, same way. Then your female groups, like, you had your SWVs. They can sing their ass off. Like SWV, the '80s had your Whitney Houston's. It's so many R&B artists that really blew up from females and the males. So, man, but I just say the '90s where, again, just like with the rap, it reached like that peak of greatness in the '90s. Like, of course, Joe was one of my favorites too. I wanna know all the things your man won't do. I do them for you. Joe, oh man. Hey, well, Joe made that song. It was on the that Don't Be a Menace in South Central while drinking. Whatever that movie was called, that funny movie. It was on that soundtrack. That Joe blew up from that one song, right? He blew up. But man, I remember that album. I think it was. Is it My Name Is Joe or? Damn. It just might have been titled Joe. That's what it might have been. But it had all the things your man won't do, and it had Love Scene. That song, Love Scene. Oh man. Yeah, I think that was one of his albums you can listen to like all the way through. See, that's the thing about it back in the the '90s, early '90s, late '90s, and the '80s. It was a lot of albums you can listen to straight through without even skipping the song. You just listen to the whole thing. We used to buy them albums, on tape, on cassette, for like, $14, $15. It was worth it. Because you can be able to just pop the tape in and listen to the whole thing. So, yeah, you had, who was very popular? Okay, I say R. Kelly, Keith Sweat, Joe, Tevin Campbell. I know he was like the early '90s. Legend. Who else? As groups. All right, 112. I used to love 112 too. They blew up. They was like somewhere around, start getting to the late '90s. 112. Cupid, they made song Cupid. That was that song, Ain't Nobody Gonna Love You. Yeah. Yes, sir. Then Jagged Edge, as Jagged Edge, yeah, they did their thing too. One of the greats, Jagged Edge, Silk, uh, man, what's that one of their songs? I think Silk came out like very early '90s, if I'm not mistaken, cause they had that song, "Let Me Lick You Up and Down Till You Say Stop." Man, that song was off the chain. Um, that album, I think it was called Lose Control. Yeah, that album was off the chain. Then I'm trying to think of some more R&B groups. Um, wow, there's so many, it's so many. I can't think of none right just right off the top of my head. But you can just go through. You just look up the list on Google or something, or the R&B artists and R&B groups. Tell it, thousands of songs, thousands of greats that are classics you can still listen to the day. But like I said, R&B really started dying down in the 2000s. I mean, you still. I remember recently hearing a little bit of R&B. I forgot the guy's name, but he was making some R&B song. Matter of fact, this year, but it don't compare to the '80s or the '90s R&B at all. It more got so more so like a hip hop type beats and all that type of stuff. When most of the R&B music had the more slow, the mellow, or what they call New Jack Swing type beats and stuff like that. I remember New Jack Swing era. Oh yeah, I forgot Tony Tone, like legends. Tony Tone. Now, also too, another legend that was kind of similar. They was kind of similar to Tone was Mid Condition. Like I think I went and seen them in concert. They very talented. Like especially that guy Stokely. He very talented. Like I think they should have been up there with Tone. Like I mean, I don't know if really people really see it like that, but I know in popularity, most people probably say Tone. But to me, I think they was like neck to neck. They was about on the same level. Um, of course, they lasted longer than Tone actually. So really, you can really put them above them. They got great music. Um, then you had Shy. You know, it was like back early '90s. And if I ever fall. Oh man, yeah. um, but yeah, I just wanted to shoot this video about the R&B. Like I mean, it's classic music. You can go. I mean, you can listen to the day, and until we decease. But yeah, all right. Y'all have a good day.